Yeah,
Um,
it
like
happens.
that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah, sometimes it's a relationship that you're trying
exactly.
to build. And if you've never had one or you had a bad one, because there's a lot of bad, it's an art. Let's just put it out. Counseling is an art. Therapy is an art. They can try to make it a science. It's soft science. It like one plus one in the counseling world is not two.
Not
You
even.
know,
Yeah.
it's like you do the same thing with this person as you did the other person, and they get a different result. And there's so many other variables, but the biggest one is the relationship you have with your provider, the person that you're learning to trust. And if you can get to the place where you actually disclose anything, doesn't matter, there's no filters, that's a beautiful place to be as a human being because we're judged on every little tiny thing, especially in the acting and the first responder world and on camera. Like, you judge by every little blink that you do, like he
Yeah.
blinked. Yeah, I saw it, dang it,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
mean to blink, you know?
My eyes were dry. I
So,
couldn't help
yeah, they're like blowing wind.
it.
And I was on a commercial the other day and they were blowing wind because it's supposed to look like,
Wow. Yeah.
and we're not supposed to blink. So you're just supposed to be like,
Oh,
and
that had to
then,
hurt.
you know, and like keep going, and then also do something with your mouth, So anyway, it's so counseling, your relationship, your trauma, your recovery, or trying to like make sense of what to do next relies a lot on your relationship with your provider, and you have to learn to trust them, which is what we're trying to do too, is say like, hey, I'm a counselor also, and I'm just a normal person. And so like you might engage in counseling and it's me, that's not what I'm trying to do. I don't need 1,000 clients. I'm super busy.
I don't think
But
that's gonna. Yeah, that get you in trouble.
yeah, but like there's a bunch of people like me out there. We just have to find them. We have to encourage people to talk about it, figure it out, and that's what this is all about, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I will say,
Yeah.
just because I don't want any confusion on that either, my therapist is not Willie. Like we are going in this as a
Yeah.
teamwork. I think like because I think that would not be taken very well or be
Yeah, I'd lose my
appropriate.
license for that one because we're
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
it's like confidential. So we're just
Yep.
doing education, and that's
Yeah,
that's the public stance on that.
exactly.
But we can talk about coping skills, strategies. I've worked with literally thousands. I stopped counting at 12,000 clients because I was like, all right, I had a lot of them, and like I don't need to count anymore. I
Yeah,
was just
exactly.
trying to curious. So you might hear us talking about counseling related stuff and skills and strategies and what we did or what I've seen or done for other people.
Yep.
And I've worked in a lot of larger scale traumatic mass casualty events as well as a counselor, and as also as a first responder, and big natural disasters or like man-made, the oil spill, BP oil spill. I spent a
Oh
while on
yeah,
that thing,
I remember
um,
that too.
working on it. But so just know, like the Las Vegas shooting, I worked a lot with some survivors, like 85 survivors that were in Colorado that happened to be at the concert, and just went through 58 people were killed. Like I've been interviewed by all kinds of news people back when the school shootings were like first going on.
Yep.
I feel like we could say that because they weren't always going on.
No, yeah, exactly. This is
you
not
know
a
like
forever type
maybe it
territory.
was, I don't know, but just in terms of media, like you hear about stuff so fast now, so I'm wondering maybe there was shootings and stuff like mass casualties in the United States, but I feel like that started in like the 2000s. And
Yeah, I mean, there
you
was
know
what Columbine was the first one that got a lot of attention. I think that was '90s. Um,
yep. And
but
I've worked a
yeah, I think
lot
you're
with
right.
that one, yeah,
Yeah,
because that was Colorado. And the Aurora theater shooting, that was a really bad one too, where people were just going to see a movie,
yeah,
and
exactly. Virginia
so
Tech, that was a really
Virginia,
bad one.
yeah, Sandy Hook Elementary
Mm.
School.
We could,
Like,
unfortunately, we could go on and
I
on.
know, yeah,
Yeah,
there's too
that was just
many of
awful.
them. That's the point, though, is there's so much of this going on. And with PTSD, you can actually, I've had people simply just hear about the event and they were traumatized. It's not going to be the same punch as if it was you directly, But if you know somebody really well and then you hear how they went through their traumatic stuff, it can leave you with a reaction that you feel helpless and hopeless or terrified. And that's how PTSD starts: an event and your response. And then if it persists more than 30 days, then it's pretty clear. We go through a lot of traumatic stuff anyway, and
Yeah,
sometimes we just, it doesn't hit us like that every time. But I call them injuries too. Like, I do
I like
borrow
that.
some from the VA. As much as I mean, I actually have referrals from the VA, so I can't poo-poo them too much. Although they make it so complicated. Like, I want to smash something sometimes. I'm serious. I'm usually pretty chill, but that, like, insurance and the military insurance specifically really
It's
bothers me.
ridiculous. Yeah,
Um,
you're
I
not the
will
first.
spend
I've heard
hours.
that more than
Yeah.
once.
Yeah. So I have this with the VA, but the in terms of they do research though, and so I do follow that, and they, how they diagnose, how they with PTSD. So they use a PTSD checklist, a life event checklist. That's a two-part, like, questionnaire. It's interview style, and then you meet criteria when you have, more than X amount of reactions in a given month, and that's the gold standard to diagnose and PTSD. So I use that, and also the three different evidence-based treatments for PTSD. That's EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which I do. I provide that for folks. And there's trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapy and prolonged exposure therapy. And those are the only three that they really have said with significant findings that these are
Right.
good so far. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything else doesn't work. It just means that, like, these are the ones that have been researched. We can rely on that for now, and then develop other ways, other physical things. Like, trauma is very physical,
Oh yeah.
like your body um, it gets whipped, it gets beat up
Yeah.
from.
It's amazing how like physically it is. Like how it kills. Like it's like especially when you go. I think the worst ones. I guess I'll say for me personally anyway. Um, when you go into the flashback and all of a sudden it feels like you're there, and
Mhm.
I mean it feels like your heart's gonna explode. You're
Yeah.
sweating yet you're freezing.
Mhm.
You have very little control over your body. Like it's the weirdest thing. When I was actually in the situation, I was fine.
Yeah.
Uh, I could
You're in the moment.
do my tactics exactly. But like when I have the flashbacks and stuff like that,
Mhm.
it's like you don't have control of your body. Like you feel
Yeah.
immobilized. It's beyond the
That
worst
it
feeling in the
is
world.
bizarre, which
Yeah.
leads, like, you become an actor in that way then, because you're like, I'm trying not to freak out right now, but I'm freaking out right now.
Yeah.
Like, my body's doing what it's doing. I don't even know. And
And I cannot control my
uh
body.
yeah, I
Why is
can't
this
figure
happening?
it. Exactly. Yeah, and then think about that. If you don't know what to do in the moment, what do? The easiest thing. What's the easiest thing to do? Well, in first responder world, is to drink,
Well,
because
yeah.
you could drink and be okay, but you can't use weed, you can't use, all this other stuff, that medications even sometimes,
Yeah.
and and try to calm that nervous system down. Alcohol is this, it affects your nervous system, it depresses your nervous system, and PTSD, or post-traumatic stress injuries, increase
Increase.
or activate your nervous system. So it makes sense why there's such an alcohol correlation. um,
Yes.
and so, in this, as me and you dialogue about this stuff, I know we're going to show people the ways that we physically work
Yep.
through stuff, what helps us physically. So, I'm still trying to be able to, beat Matt in a race or something, someday. He's a cop, so I feel like cops already know how to run, or they should, because they jump fences and they,
But
got to chase bad guys. Uh, and
and
I'm lugging hose with me, like, I don't get to run.
so I hate to
But
say this, and hopefully cops will come on here and we can fix this. but we challenge each other quite a bit in agencies all across the nation. Like, I mean, so I played in the NPSFL, which is the National Public Safety Football League, which
All right.
is nationwide. You have to
Mhm.
be sworn, whether it's firefighter or law enforcement. Now, where I played in Charlotte,
Mhm.
it was a combination of like we were the Charlotte Cobras. Shout out to them. Won Division II championship last year. Just saying. Um,
Yay.
but we were a combination of firefighters and police officers. Like
Mhm.
NYPD, they play NYFD all the time. And that's like a huge.
Oh, big
You can imagine
rivalry.
what that's like. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh man,
Um,
the jokes.
but
Yeah.
unfortunately, more times than not, firefighters like we have. So where I live now, there's a 7 mile long bridge, and every year they shut the bridge down. They did this past weekend, and there's a run on it, and there were
Oh,
multiple
nice.
firefighters that ran it in full gear and with the tank
Of
and
course.
everything,
Hmm.
which goes back to the fact that mentally we're definitely smarter than you guys. I see that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
but
man. I mean, we
physically
got to be
we're
kind of
we're
dumb,
losing
actually.
some.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I see what you're
So,
saying. Hmm.
but no, physically, you guys, and you don't see many cop counters, but boy, you see firefighter counters
Oh
everywhere.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so cops, we need to step it up a lot in that category.
Hmm.
So we'll be
Yes, you
working on
do.
that.
Yeah.
And that's one
Yep.
of the things we talk about. Joking aside, one of the big
Hmm.
things for me in recovery is, as you know, is working out. Um,
Hmm.
I work
Yeah.
out usually twice a day, and if it means having to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get the workouts in, 3 o'clock in the morning it is. Let's
Yeah.
go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I work out like this a lot of times. It's like like
Hey, you
net.
did good on those pull-ups though on that tree. Like I was
Oh
a little
yeah,
impressed by that.
I
I
do
was like, all
pull-ups.
right,
Yeah. And I don't have
that's
a gym. So I work out wherever I go and I travel a lot. So sometimes it literally will be like I find a tree limb and just do pull-ups, and like try to do some curls like, in way with random stuff like on a trail and
so that's
or just
important what you
push-ups.
just said. Like people
Hmm.
need to hear that because I'm the same way. So we love to give ourselves excuses, right? As people, people
Hmm.
I can't work out today because I'm in a hotel or I'm traveling all day. So I just, I've been on the road for the
Hmm.
last week basically. Still got 5 workouts in. I missed one day, and that was it. Now
Nice.
some of that
Yeah.
was working out in a hotel room. You can
Yeah.
still like I come up with little CrossFit workouts in the hotel.
Hmm.
Use the bed for push-ups, so you can do aqua push-ups. Up against
Yeah.
the wall to do hands. Like you can figure out things to do. Don't
Yeah.
ever give yourself the opportunity to give excuses that well, I'm doing this, so I can't
Yeah.
push
Yeah.
through that.
Yeah, and it's not even about to me, I think a core philosophy is to celebrate when you do anything,
Correct.
in terms of, especially if it's physical, you're trying to work out. If you do 5 push-ups, good for you, man. You did five
Exactly.
push-ups.
You did something.
That's
Yeah.
great. It's better than none.
Yep.
And, none is not great, like that's not. So
That's not
I
what you
think,
want. Exactly.
yeah, people, and I think a lot of times, I used to do marathons. Actually, it started out with 5K, 5K, 10K, 15, 25K. Then it was
I
half
see. Stop.
marathon.
You see. You went too far. I don't know if you realize that, but you're supposed to stop running at a certain point. Once you hit
Yeah.
the 5 mile mark, it's supposed to end. Like, don't
You're
ever go
like,
past
yeah, there's no point of no return. Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But, me, I have a twin brother too, right? He's in the military for 22 years, retired, with
Awesome
honors,
guy.
is doing great. Yeah,
A
we
lot better. A
connected.
lot better looking than you. I've never seen.
We'll have him on here. You could
Yeah,
judge
we
and
need
figure
to.
it out. But, so he's all secretive and, but I'm like out in public all the time. And so he can watch his other version, be on TV and stuff. But
Exactly.
so we used to run races all the time, and I got to the point where it was like racing is great, but also like if you focus on the wrong thing, it becomes like kind of torture.
Work.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
and so then long story just to say, I got sick of racing. I did marathons and whatnot. Then I just started picking off mountains, and then it was mountains from this mountain to that mountain, and I ended up doing this 26, ended up 33 miles, but it was 26 miles without stopping across the continental divide where I was living. So I could see the whole thing, and I'd be like,
That is
I
so
ran across the
cool.
whole thing. So you don't really need to have anything to exercise to like take care of
Yeah.
yourself, and it doesn't need to be a big giant goal. It doesn't need to be it can be a race, it can be competition. It doesn't
Whatever's
have
good
to
for
be.
you.
It could
Exactly.
be today.
Yep.
And the other last thing I would just say around well-being is think in terms of all dimensions of wellness because they all impact each other. Like my spiritual life, where's that at?
Yes.
And am I active in my own beliefs?
Yep.
Or do I feel like I'm doing something wrong all the time? Like I
Yep.
need to figure that out. Finances, you just got to be able to pay the bills. I love like trying to travel and have cool stuff, but like just have to be able to pay the bills.
Yep.
Socially, what are we doing? I'm actually pretty introverted, so I'll
Same.
hide
I do.
after.
So we're same boat.
You too. Yeah,
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
and here we are.
Yeah.
We're gonna go hide it here in just a minute, but
It's funny how
um,
many actors are like that, though. That is
yeah,
I find that very fascinating that
isn't
a
it
lot of
weird?
actors turn, yeah. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess because that's why you want to be someone else for a little bit, is because you want to
yeah.
not
You show
feel
up and then
stressed
you
around
can kind
people.
of. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm Batman. That's what it is. I am like in my cave, and then I come to the city and I do what you do in the city, and then I go back to the
And
cave.
then you back out and hide. Yeah, exactly. Same.
Yeah.
Oh, so much same.
Yeah. So, and then think about physically. We just talked about that. Like, what are you doing physically? Diet, rest, exercise, including alcohol, including medication, including, you know, um, what you put into your
I was
body.
gonna say nutrition is so huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I pay just as much attention to that as I do the physical workouts themselves. Like, you're
Yeah.
putting the wrong stuff in your body, you can work out all you want, you're gonna have problems. Like that.
Oh,
That's just the way
totally.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to drink or something and then be healthy. It's like, man, I like to drink. Don't get me wrong. Spicy margarita. Whoo. Yes, please. But
Yep.
also like too many of those, and
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
not good. You
Yep.
know. So, and then thinking of environmental well-being, like where you spend your time, I think
Yeah.
that's a big piece of it. I go from beach to mountain all the time, and I just my kids are in Colorado, so I am always back and forth. And so my environment influences me. If I were to be in, you see that show Severance?
I haven't seen it yet. I know the show you're talking about.
Okay,
I need to watch, but I haven't yet.
try just watch one of them and just so you know what it is. But it's very bland, and it's like I won't say the whole story because it's not even about that. It's just about these people live in these very bland environments, and I feel like that's what work is sometimes. You just show up, not as a first responder, like it's very
Yeah.
dynamic.
Yeah.
But if
No,
you were
that's
just stuck, like you're stuck inside all the time, like I'm gonna say go outside, like even if it's cold. Like remember how your fingers like will tingle for a while and then they go numb and then you're all right.
so.
you know?
I went running in Pennsylvania when I went up there this past week in 30 some degree weather, and the numbness didn't quite
That's
kick in the way it was supposed to. I
it did.
froze the entire time. I was so mad.
Yeah. Now he's
Uh,
from Florida, so everything's
yeah,
cold.
exactly. The blood is thinned out a lot.
Yeah. I know. When I was living in Colorado up in Winter Park area, which is a ski town, it would
Yeah.
get -40 outside. I had to have
Oh.
my truck plugged in all the time because it would just freeze up and you couldn't drive anywhere. It was a diesel and it just needed to be had an engine block heater and and then the snow would be up over we lived on a corner, we had a stop sign, and the snow would you could tell where it was in the year because it would like
Oh
eventually
wow.
be over the stop sign where the snow was. And
Oh,
uh, so, like I think the environments affect
you
you though, is
adapt.
my
Yeah.
point.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I
And
mean, there's actually so many studies that back that up too. Like, yeah,
mhm,
that's definite.
yeah. And
So
can I just throw this thing in there because I'm going to there's a thing called the suicide belt that runs along the Rockies in the United States. And Google it if you want, or
yeah.
internet search it, since
Yeah.
Google was bad last year, they got
Yeah.
like fined and
I was
for
gonna say they got hammered
privacy.
a little bit.
You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
but internet search, suicide belt, and you'll see what I'm talking about. There's a higher density of suicide rate in those areas, and they're rural, mountainous. There's a bunch of theories, but one of the things that I would recommend is if you have depression and you live at high elevation, it's actually making it harder on yourself to live at higher elevation. There's a higher percentage of depression severity among
Oh
people who
wow.
have, like, what's weird is your red blood cells will multiply, and those are the ones that carry your oxygen. So your blood becomes thicker, just like you talk about, it's thinner down in Florida. If you live at elevation or you train at elevation, like there's a lot of MMA people that go to Mile
Yeah,
High City,
just to get the breathing. Yep.
Yeah, because your body actually, it's not blood doping, but your body will produce more red blood cells, which means you can carry more oxygen. And so then it doesn't last. It's not like you do it once, it's forever, like
Yeah.
it's an accumulated thing. So people that have depression, it's actually recommended that they not live in those areas at high elevation, especially when you get, like, um, I was at 8550, so 8,550 feet elevation. And so, like, that's pretty high for somebody with depression. It's going to be magnified. So you folks out in Colorado, just watch that. You
That's
might need to
interesting.
go to
That's really
Florida or go to
yeah.
North Carolina or Texas,
Certain
or
parts of North Carolina. Watch out because you got the Appalachians there. You don't want to get near that.
that's true, yeah. But somewhere with like lower elevation,
Yeah.
it's better on your physical body, and it's an environment also. Just keep that in mind. And I think people's environments affect them.
Oh, there's
Um,
no question. Yeah, that's
you know,
big time.
and so putting all those together, I just want to encourage people, like, what we talk about will include all of those
Yeah.
dimensions. And if you have things that work that you want to share, there's so much cool stuff going on.
Yeah.
People are experimenting, like, not in a weird way, just, like, I saw trauma informed yoga for firefighters, and I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
that's super cool. They didn't have that. They didn't even talk about mental health when I was doing it. They were
Yeah.
like, just, okay, you're having a rough day. All right, like, no talk. So now we
Yeah.
have, things like, there's sleep interventions to help teach first responders and other people who've been through trauma how to prepare your body for sleep. Sounds goofy, but
But that's
you know,
huge. Yeah. Like
it's a big
that
deal.
was a main thing for me. Yeah, exactly. Not
Yeah,
sleeping was, I mean, that's what about
it's a
cost me
huge
everything.
thing.
So yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
Yep.
So if you have things, or if people that are listening in have connections, or you have resources, let us know what they are, so that, and I have some too, and I know you do, Matt, and we'll get at that. And we'll keep a
Yeah, we'll
list. We have a
keep
little,
building.
yeah.
Exactly.
But that's awesome, man. So is there anything else, Matt, you want people to remember for the next week here?
So this is what and so I'll call what it is, a little call for action at this point, and then we'll wrap this up because we're going for a while. Um, we have one goal, right? And that's to help as many people as possible, and to inform people. And I mean, on the side note, I would say entertain as well. But our main
Mm-hmm.
focus is spreading the word, getting the help out there. And we can't, I hate this because it sounds so cliche, but we can't do it without you. And we need to
Yeah.
spread this out to as many people as possible, especially those that can benefit from hearing it. So I
Mm-hmm.
am begging everybody um, to pass this along and share it with everybody. Like I said, we're definitely not making any money. We are not in it for the money. I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we've already had, I can say, two people that have reached out that have gone to seek therapy after listening to the few episodes we've had so far.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, that
That's
almost brought me to
cool.
tears when I saw that. Like, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
all I can say
That's
is
super cool.
please, yeah, help us with our mission. Let's spread this out. Let's get this into as many hands. And let's work as a community too. Like he was saying, if you've got resources, that kind of thing, let's get it out there. If you've got good stories, again, if you have coping mechanisms, as long as they're healthy, we want to hear about them.
Yeah.
Unhealthy, obviously, we want to get rid of those and switch it over to healthy.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We're trying to help you help yourself. And
Yeah.
maybe with video, I've had this idea for a long time that if I was able to just talk to people and meet people somewhere, somehow, and get some information into their head and tell them that actually it's okay. You can reach out. It's totally fine. You'll be better than you'll be thanking yourself later. And then thinking, how do I meet people there? Because if you're not going to have your first way of introducing yourself to self-help is usually going to be through some very distant means, like you're going to watch a video, you're going to read some blog posts, you're going to see an image, you're going to read something in a magazine, very kind of hands off. So that's where we're coming from, but actually we just want to encourage people that it's okay, reach out, and it's actually way better. And we just want you to share this in terms of like multiply that ability to reach people, so that way more first responders and people who've been traumatized get the help that they need and deserve, really. So hope to see you guys soon.
Exactly.
And
Hey, thank you all. And remember, every Sunday night, 8:30 p.m.